Hey YouTube, it's Grawlys, back with another Q&A video. Had a few questions this time, so I'll try not to dawdle, and we'll crack through as quickly as we can with some of the answers. In no particular order. We'll start with Wargamer Sean. He asked, what 40k armies do you currently have, 30k armies, and what other strategy games do you play? Well, I'm going to do 40k armies as a household, because the little Grawlys have got some armies. Mine is the biggest part, probably up to about 4,500 points of Eldar, and I haven't finished yet. But between the kids, there's Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum, however you want to call them these days. We've got Space Marines in the guise of Blood Angels and Orcs. They were originally from the Black Reach starter set, and recently the littlest Grawlys has started a Grey Knights army. He's currently in the process of building that. He got it because a friend at school in the Warhammer club has demons and keeps beating everybody with these demons. So the strategy is, I'll get some Grey Knights and I'll beat him. So we'll see how it goes with that one. Like I say, he's still building them. So yeah, only, what's that, five armies. That's enough to keep us going. 30k, don't have any of it. I'm not kind of subscribed to the Horus Heresy stuff. I've got enough still to build and paint with me Eldar. I need to get some of them cracked on and get them done before I even kind of consider 30k or Age of Sigmar. And not get any of that. We've only got 40k. And what are the strategy games? Chess. I like playing chess. Don't play it very often. I've not played it for a long while, but I can play chess. In my youth, I used to play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That was back in 2nd edition. And the kids still do AD&D. I'm not sure what edition that they're currently doing, 4th, 5th edition. So that's kind of through college to the elder of the two here at home that they do that. Whether World of Warcraft classes as a strategy game, that's more like a role-playing game. Used to play quite a few in my youth, but hardly any these days. But there's a question from Pete from Mini Warzone later that I'll save some of those kind of answers to help me answer Pete's question later on. So hopefully that kind of answers your question, Sean. Yeah, I'm a 40k addict, specifically Eldar. Don't really do anything else. I don't so much play the game. I'm a kind of builder and painter. So there we go. Next question was from my eldest, Mammoth Painting Studio. He asked, if you were to play Horus Heresy games, which Loyalist Legion and which Traitor Legion would you go for? Interesting question. I had no clue about 30k, so I've done some research on them. I understand it's all like the 20 legions first founding and all the rest of it. But it would have to be, as a Loyalist chapter, Space Wolves, because Space Vikings come on. And as the Traitor Legion, reading a bit of the fluff, the Burning of Prospero, where the Space Wolves pretty much slaughtered the Thousand Sons, so it'd probably have to be Thousand Sons, just for that kind of Space Wolves, Thousand Sons kind of rivalry. So, hopefully, after me doing a bit of research, hopefully that answers your question, Mike. Next question. Heresy Productions, Palmer, asked, my question is, do you and Mammoth Painting ever get a game of 40k in? We used to have battles when he was younger, as a teenager, and he was first starting out, but that was fantasy, not 40k. He's kind of grown up, he's kind of working, I kind of remarried, got the stepsons and all the rest of it, and up till recently our days off just did not align. He was like off on a Saturday and Sunday, I was off on a Monday and Tuesday, so very rare we actually got time together unless we both, or one or other of us, or both of us, booked time off work as annual leave. But we did have one game, probably within the last 5 years, that's pretty much it, where Mammoth brought his orcs up and faced off against Imperial Guard, and the Imperial Guard got hammered. Not very conversed with a lot of the rules and stuff, and missing lots of stuff out, and not understanding how kind of units work and orders work with Guard and back then. So yeah, he pretty much, probably about turn 3, the Guard were wiped out. So yeah, only had one game of 40k in the last 5 years, so I don't know whether we'll pick up and have chance and have time to do more. I don't know, never quite sure what the future holds, but watch this space, it might happen. So thanks for that question, Pam, thank you. Right, Mini Warzone, that's the next question. That's Pete over at Mini Warzone. He asked, how did you first get into the hobby? Oh, going back a few years now. I started out when I was still at school. It used to be sixth form back then, which was part of the main high school. These days sixth form is like a separate college, and you go through doing your A levels and your A and AS levels and all the rest of it. But it was AD&D that I did when I was at school. I also played a few Peter Jackson games and TSR games, things like Ogre and GEV, which were a small map, and you had little counters move across a hex map. Ogre was basically a futuristic tank. GEV was more, not so much the tanks, but some of the vehicles and some like troop units. So I used to play them. But this is going back to the old school Games Workshop, when they used to sell like Citadel miniatures, like the pre-slaughter bases, the AD&D figures. Ralpartha used to do a lot of the figures for that. Board games, like I said, the TSR games, games like Lord of the Rings. Again, that was a big map, but again, just little cardboard counters with units and kind of like the stats printed on it. But Lord of the Rings was huge. It was probably about 3 foot square, the hex map, and you're only talking about tiny little cardboard counters, basically the whole of Middle Earth, and you had all the armies of men, like the Rohirrim, Gondorians, dwarves, elves, and you had all the armies of Mordor. Not playing with figures, playing with these cardboard counters. But Games Workshop evolved, and they phased out a lot of the Steve Jackson and TSR games and the board games and all the AD&D stuff, and they introduced their own lines. I say it's going back a few years now, and they switched to the Games Workshop products that we kind of have now. The 40k, Fantasy, it was Battlefleet Gothic back then, like some of the original like Space Hulks and stuff like that. They kind of specialised in their own games and kind of dropped a lot of the other lines, and it was about that time when Mammoth and his brother, as teenagers, we got into the fantasy side, and we bought the starter kit. And if I remember right, it was Bretonians and Orcs, maybe. I don't know, but we ended up with a few fantasy armies and played that. It wasn't into 40k at that point. But yeah, we kind of got into the hobby, and it created a couple of addicts. So still to this day. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into the hobby. It's way back when I was back at school. Don't so much play anymore, but I do enjoy the hobby, and it's going back to being a kid and building aeroplanes and ships, and I must have had 30 aeroplanes strung up on my bedroom ceiling as a kid, all flying around in dogfights and stuff like that. I thought they were brilliant, all well painted, but looking at how I am now, they were very basic, and the cat's just come meowling around my feet, so you might be able to pick it up on the thing there. So thanks for that question, Pete. Hopefully that answers your question. Next one is from Idic Beer, from Nick. Asks, if you had £500 to spend on the hobby only, what would you buy? Good question. I did have quite a distinct answer in my head, but thinking about it, it might kind of change a little bit. I would buy Eldar. I would love another couple of Falcons, so I could get a Cloud Strike squadron. I've only got one Falcon at the moment. A couple more Crimson Hunters, because there's I can't remember the name of that formation, but the three flyers, one of them being an XR flyer. I've seen a few bat reps with them in, and they look pretty good. Rather than just a single flyer, I have a squadron of flyers going around the board, or at least a model. Maybe with some Forge World stuff, and I've alluded it to in other videos. I really like Hornets, a squadron of 3 of them, and a squadron of 3 Wasps, but also the Phoenix Bomber. I really like the look of that. So if you can kind of combine all that, you're in the kind of round about the £400 range. Probably pick up some extra little bits as well. I've not got any Shining Spears, so maybe add a unit of Shining Spears into my army, and then I've got literally everything that I could possibly have in an Eldar army. That will pretty much round off the army completely, and then it'll just be expanding on the units, rather than having like kind of units of 5, it'd be units of 10 for the Warp Spiders and Fire Dragons and stuff like that. But that wouldn't be included in the 500. That would be I said Falcons, Crimson Hunters, Phoenix Bomber, Hornets and Wasps. That would pretty much take a chunk of that 500 quid. So hopefully you like the idea of some more Eldar. You never know. Hopefully it answers your question, Nick. Thank you. Next question, Immortal Uprising Studio. What are we on? 14 minutes, right? Immortal Uprising Studio, Bazza. He asked, if you had to, what army would you swap your Eldar for, and why? Would I be able to swap Eldar? If I had to, I think I've possibly already kind of, maybe with Mammoth's question with the Space Wolves, maybe Space Wolves, if it had to be a Space Marine chapter. I like the thought of the very kind of Viking-esque warriors. The runes, so I don't know if you can pick it up, maybe not on the ring, but on my wedding ring I've actually got mine and my wife's name in runes. I can actually write passages in runes, read it as long as it's translatable into English. Obviously if it's runes in Finnish or Norwegian, I can't read those, I can't speak those languages, but if it's into English, yeah, I can translate runes into English and vice versa. And if you look at Mammoth's logo, actually wrote that out. Actually, when it was done, there was a couple of errors. When you look at the M in Mammoth, it looks like an M. It shouldn't be just a V shape at the top. It should be a cross. Is the M rune, Manaz. So there's actually an error. Well, that was when the logo was being created. I did it in a rush and it kind of lost in translation kind of thing. But yeah, Space Wolves, and if it had to be anything else, as a probably Tau. I quite like the Xenos races, the Eldar and the Tau, kind of, I suppose they're a similar thing, but Tau, I like the idea of the greater good. You know, they're kind of assimilating other races and building an empire. So I quite like the idea of Tau. So if I had to swap my Eldar for anything, it'd either be Space Wolves or Tau. So thanks for that one, Bazek. And last question is tattoo for you, Richard. He asked, he says in his reply, the Orca is my dream model. I just love its design. Sadly, it's no more. I would probably grab a China cast if it ever popped up on eBay. You know that's my question. I have my thoughts on it. How do you feel about the China recasts? I'm all about making the hobby as cheap as possible, especially if it's something for like out of production minis. You know, so if that Orca came up, you know, if it's a China recast, if the quality was good enough, then yeah, why not? I hold no loyalty to any one particular company. The only thing that would concern me is the quality of the resin that they're using in these casts, whether the casts were any good. However, that's comparing it to things like Forge World resin, which I've not got any Forge World models, but I believe their resin and their casting is pretty good. But I've had a few fine casts from Games Workshop, and some of those casts are horrendous. You know, the resin's been brittle, bubbles in it that need repairing, and no. So the China casts, or the China recasts, can it be any worse than Failcast? Is it going to be on the par to Forge World? I don't know, but ultimately it's about making the hobby as cheap as possible, and if it means getting a China recast, I probably will consider that. Yeah. I've not got any, but I would consider it if it was the right model. So that concludes. So thanks for your question, Richard. That's me wrapped up for another Q&A. We're just coming up to 20 minutes. Hopefully I've not waffled too much, but there was a few more questions in the last Q&A, so thank you for those. Please keep the questions coming if you're still interested. I aim to do a Q&A probably around about every 3 to 4 weeks, so maybe on a monthly basis. We'll see how it goes. Obviously if I get 30-40 questions, it's going to be have to split up into smaller ones, but I'm probably getting about half a dozen questions a month, which a monthly Q&A seems to be about right for that kind of volume of questions. So I'll keep going. This is the one for this month. This is going to be Q&A number 3. Leave me some new questions below, and hopefully we'll get some interesting answers. Hopefully you've liked the answers in today's. We shall leave it there. We're just coming up 23 minutes now, so I've waffled long enough. I'll love you and leave you, and take care from Grawlys Lair.